Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Understanding Artwork Files and Print Methods, the Basics by EziTag Systems. Before we get started, I'll go over a few things so you know how to participate in today's event. You're listening in using your computer system, speaker system by default. If you prefer to join over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You'll have the opportunity to submit questions to Mark and Carol by typing them into the questions pane on the control panel. You may send your questions in at any time and we'll collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end. To give a brief introduction on today's presenters, Mark is the co-owner and co-founder of EziTag Systems. Being skilled in the Adobe Suite of graphic art software and the needs of the promotional products industry, he is well suited to talk about one of his passions, high-quality artwork. Carol is the Assistant Marketing Manager at EziTag Systems and has been with the team for 4 years. She has a background in sales and marketing within the travel industry and brings a wealth of practical experience to EziTag. I'll now hand over to Mark and Carol.
Thank you, Kate. And I'd like to thank APA for giving us EziTag this opportunity to present our first webinar for 2017. My name is Mark and I'll be presenting most of the information in this webinar with the help of Carol.
Good afternoon, everyone.
We can remember our very first convex that we did with Yashoda, the convex secretary at that time. Our relationship with Yashoda soon resulted in EziTag being appointed to do all of the convex registration, lanyards, name tags, as well as the roadshows. As convex evolved, Yashoda moved on and APA appointed a professional external registration company. But we've got fond memories of those early days with Yashoda. There's one small story I'd like to share with you. One of our convex shows in Sydney, we had all of our equipment stolen at 4 o'clock in the afternoon before the show opened 8 in the morning. By our equipment, I mean laptops, networking equipment, software, our event names, tag supplies, the lanyards, all the stationery, everything just wiped off our stand. Somehow we managed to get everything next flighted up to my hotel room at 2 o'clock in the morning, and by 8 o'clock the next morning, the trauma of the previous 12 hours was overlooked and the show went ahead without anyone being any the wiser. We decided to launch the Sublime collection as a service to our distributor clients. It's now an unbranded catalogue in its 12th edition. In recent years, we've expanded it to cover the full range of promotional products. The Sublime collection is supported by its generic website. During this webinar, we're going to address a number of things. First of all, why high quality artwork is essential. Then we'll move on to understanding a basic understanding of the different decoration methods. Then we'll move to good and bad art. There's obviously a difference and we need to tell you about garbage in and garbage out. To clarify that garbage in, garbage out, we'll look at an example of a simple name tag with artwork on it. From there, we're going to move on to the two different types of artwork files, raster and vector. All artwork can only be one of two files, raster and vector, and we'll explain what that means during this webinar. Then finally, we're going to look at why website logos just don't work for artwork before moving on to a discussion about PDF files. There's many different decoration methods, and the decoration method best suited for your product is determined by the nature of the product and the number of units to be decorated. So we'll look briefly at the different decoration methods. There's 5 main ones that most distributors are concerned with. The first one is screen printing, which is a traditional decoration method that's been around for generations. A screen is made, meaning the item or artwork is transferred to the screen. The ink is forced through the screen onto the item. The printed item must then be cured in a tunnel dryer or oven, so it's durable. Screen printing being a labour-intensive setup is really only suitable for orders over 50 units. The next method is digital print. Now, digital printing, there's many forms of digital printing. For example, heat transfer, which I believe there was a webinar on recently, is one form. Another form of digital printing is what you may know as direct-to-garment or DTG onto T-shirts. But there's other forms of digital printing as well. Small runs of brochures, invitations, postcards. There's another group of printers called UV or ultraviolet printers. Generally, any process that requires a computer and a printer you can call digital. As with all forms of printing, artwork is needed, and this is generally on a wide format printer. The third method is pad printing. Typically it's used on 3D small objects. By 3D I mean objects that aren't flat. They need a special machine to print it. The fourth method is offset printing, which is a large printer used to print magazines, catalogues, etc. Yeah. And finally, we're going to look at sublimation printing. So if we look at screen printing, as I mentioned, you make a screen. That screen is made from your artwork and it's transferred onto the screen. The ink is then forced through the screen onto the item underneath. The printed item must then be cured or dried in an oven or tunnel dryer. Because screen printing is a very labour-intensive setup process in the production of the screens, it's generally only suited for 50 units or more. So if we have a look at a video of a typical screen printer, what you're going to see in this video is an 8-colour T-shirt being printed in one pass around an automatic screen printing machine. Each workstation on the printer applies a separate colour or screens a separate colour onto the printer. Towards the end of the video, you're going to see the finished 8-colour shirt about to be put into a tunnel dryer to be cured. So let's watch the video. As I mentioned, the setup of a screen printing operation, especially an 8-colour print, is very labour intensive. So sometimes below 50 units, decorators and service providers will recommend that some form of digital printing be used. Digital printing takes up many different forms. First of all, artwork is generally printed onto suitable paper on a digital printer, typically a wide format printer. There are different papers that are used for different methods of decorating. For example, the paper that you would use for a poster would be totally different to the paper that you would use for a heat transfer operation. The printed media or paper is then transferred to the item, usually involving a heat press transfer. What you're seeing on your screen now is just a very small heat press. There are much larger heat presses on the market. In fact, there are different shapes of heat presses, enabling a variety of promo products to be decorated. For example, there are mug presses, which will heat press a mug. There's some of the items on your screen that could be heat pressed using digital printing. As with screen printing, the image sits on top of the product. The heat transfer process cures it and makes it durable, although you can feel it with your fingernail if you scratch it. And being a digital process, low volume runs are okay, under 50 units. A third method of printing is pad printing. Typically it's used for small or rounded objects that cannot be easily screen printed. Examples would include pens, golf balls, bottles, cups, mugs, etc. The best way to look at how pad printing works is to watch a small animation of pad printing. Before we watch it, I'll just describe what's on your screen. You can see the blue letter D. That's an etched steel plate that's been produced from the client's artwork. It has ink has been transferred onto it. The blue you see is ink. Above it is a red sponge. That sponge compresses. It goes down onto the D, it picks up the ink, and then it will move across to the golf ball and compress onto the golf ball around the shape of the golf ball and transfer the D onto the golf ball. So let's have a watch of what's happening. Now, as with screen printing and digital printing, the pad printing has to be cured or dried, and that's generally done again in a tunnel dryer. We move on to offset printing, our fourth method. Offset printers are typically very large printers used for runs of magazines, catalogues, newspapers, etc. So we're going to watch a video of, in this case, one of the smaller offset printers. It's printing onto large sheets of paper. And you can see that the paper is squeezed between drums. Some of these small offset printers you can use to print items such as envelopes, long runs of tote bags, any 2D or flat objects. But because of the setup, again, it's not recommended generally for distributors and promotional products, which require long runs. Our final decoration method is sublimation. And I'm going to ask you to bear with me while I try and explain the mysteries and magic of sublimation. The artwork that you provide is printed onto special sublimation paper, and it uses unique sublimation inks. This is done on a digital printer, special sublimation printer. Using heat pressing, the printed image is embedded into, not on top of, the item. So how does this happen? Extreme heat and pressure converts the top layer of the polyester fabric and the printed inks into a chemical. The inks on the paper chemically migrate into the fabric and form a part of the fabric. Once the pressure and the heat is removed, the fabric reverts to a solid state and the printed image is now permanently embedded inside the fabric. The image can't be scratched or rubbed off, it's permanent. Over time, it may, however, fade if exposed to long periods of sunlight. It's important to repeat that only polyester items can be sublimated and the fabric must generally be white or very light colours. Examples of sublimation print would include full colour lanyards, all over sports jerseys. As you can see on your screen now, this is an all-over t-shirt, coloured t-shirt. That started life as a plain white polyester tee, but through sublimation, it's turned into what you see on your screen. That's why I describe sublimation as being magical. Being digital, small runs of these items are generally okay. So as you've seen, there's different methods of decoration, but they all have one thing in common. They all need artwork, whether it's sublimation, digital screen, pad printing, offset, doesn't matter, they need artwork. You know, you or your client may have a preferred print method, but if you're in doubt, then you ask your APA supplier or decorator what they advise. Remember, advice costs nothing. But having looked at all the different decoration methods, we move on now to actually talking about artwork. I think we all know that there's good art and bad art. Many, many years ago, decades ago, the fledgling computer industry invented an acronym. It was called GIGO, which stands for garbage in, garbage out. For us, as distributors and service providers and suppliers, it means your finished print is only ever as good as your original artwork. It can never be better than your original artwork. So, good art compared to bad art. And how does it impact on your finished decoration? Let's have a look at an example. On your screen now, you've got two identical name tags. At the top is a name tag that's been produced from high quality art, and on the bottom is the same name tag produced from extremely low quality art. You'll notice how the top one has sharp lines and the bottom one is blurred. Let's look at each of these two Sublime logos. They look quite similar, but in fact, they're different. They're very different. If we zoom in, make them bigger that is, we can see the differences. The top one retains its crystal shape and clarity, and the bottom one is blurred. The top one will produce a high quality decorated product, and the bottom one, well, we've seen what that does to a name tag. It's rubbish. So why the difference? How can two seemingly similar logos be so different when we magnify them? The answer is in the file type. The top logo is an Adobe Illustrator vector file. The bottom logo is a JPEG, which is a raster file. So where I came from earlier in the webinar, we need to look at vector and raster files because they are the only two types of artwork files, vector and raster. So what are they and how do we recognise them? All images are one of these two types, raster or vector. Let's look at raster first. On your screen now is a photo of Carol and I. They're raster files. Raster files have extensions that you may have seen, JPEG, BMP or bitmap, TIFF, PNG, GIF. They're all different versions of raster files. Raster files use many different coloured pixels to form a complete image. Almost all the photos found on the web and in print catalogues are raster images. Your phone's photos that we all like taking selfies, of course, they're raster images. Because raster images are constructed using a fixed number of coloured pixels, they can't be accurately resized without losing any resolution or clarity. When stretched or made larger to suit, say, a promotional product, let's say a large water bottle, their pixels become grainy and the image distorts. That's why altered photos, which I'm sure we've all seen, appear pixelated and blurry. Logos or artwork that are raster images will most likely suffer from this degradation when they're printed. Your decorator cannot accurately or quickly resize a raster logo. But, and there's always a but, there are high-resolution raster images that we can use for decoration, but generally speaking, your decorator will prefer a vector image. So we move on to look at vector images. Vector images are created in the most two popular vector drawing programs are Adobe Illustrator and Corel Draw, and they are drawing programs and they use line art to construct images. So on your screen now, you'll see the Sublime logo in outline mode. That's as it was drawn in Adobe Illustrator. The blue dots that you see on your screen, they represent mathematical relationships between every other blue dot. So when we resize that image, large or small, the mathematical relationship between every blue dot remains the same, and the image will always be crisp and sharp. Adobe Illustrator, and CorelDRAW for that matter, save files in these file formats: EPS, AI, CDR, and PDF. You'll notice the last one of those, PDF. We're going to come back to PDF later in the webinar. Apart from the resizing of logos, there's another reason why decorators always prefer vector files. We're often asked to change the colour of a logo. Now let's look at our two Sublime logos, but this time we've changed the colours from green to pink. Once again, they look fairly similar. But if we zoom in again on those two logos, you can see again that the edges of the pink swirl in the top logo remain crisp and sharp, and the bottom logo pixelated and ragged. So how does that happen? As I mentioned, in a vector program such as Illustrator or CorelDRAW, the mathematical relationships between all those blue dots ensures that it retains its clarity when you resize it. But the raster image at the bottom of your screen, it doesn't. So in a raster program such as Photoshop, each individual coloured pixel has to be replaced with a different colour. So if we move on to the next screen, which is a zoom of that bottom one, you can see now it's no easy matter to select all of the green pixels and replace them with pink. You can see bits of green, bits of yellow, bits of grey. In fact, there's a bit of everything. This is because when you increase the size of a raster file, the computer program, such as Photoshop, has to fill in the colours. It makes a best guess as to what those colours should be. Then when we have to change the colour, the software can select the greens, but not all of the software-generated pixels that have been used in the resizing. With a lot of work, many hours, and at great cost, a very good graphic artist will be able to change it for you, but it will never be as good as a vector file, which is always perfect. So what does all this mean for you and your client? You should always request vector art from your client. And if necessary, you should tell your client that vector artwork is usually created in Illustrator or CorelDRAW. If the client says we've only got JPEGs or similar, then you should caution against using them, spelling out the quality issues, and then talk to your supplier about any issues that your client's identified. Clients who say they only have JPEGs or similar more often than not overlooking the fact that the original logo was probably created in either Adobe Illustrator or CorelDRAW. And this being the case, someone somewhere has that file, and that's what you need to hunt down. And you also finally need to look at GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Your artwork and final decoration will never be as good as the original artwork. It can never be better than the work. It can never be worse than the original artwork. What you put in is what you get out. Just onto one of the final parts of the webinar, I want to reinforce the garbage in, garbage out concept. At EziTag and our sister company EziBrand, we often get asked to grab logos off websites. On your screen now, you're going to see the Sublime Collection website with the Sublime logo circled. It looks pretty sharp. For us to use that logo, we have to do a screen capture. Up the top of the screen, you'll see the Sublime logo as it looks on the website. And at the bottom is where we captured it from. At 100% size, it doesn't look too bad. But if we want to, say, increase the size to, say, a water bottle down the bottom, you can immediately see the lack of clarity. It's not going to print nice at all. And it gets even worse than that if we have to change the colours. So what's the end result of that? You yell at your supplier and your client regrets ever dealing with you. So, for the highest quality artwork and finished decoration, you need artwork that's created in either Adobe Illustrator or Corel Draw. They're vector-based artwork drawing programs, and they're perfect for use on promotional products. However, there's always an elephant in the room, and that elephant is PDF files. We need to ask, what is a PDF file? Well, PDF stands for Portable Document Format. It was created by Adobe to have an industry-wide standard file format, and it's been hugely successful. I think every one of us have received and viewed, opened PDF files. Now, many different programs can save PDF files. On your screen now is a list of all these programs. You can save a PDF out of Word, Excel, Illustrator, Photoshop, Corel Draw, and many more. But, and it's a big but, like humans, not all PDF files are created equally. Just because an image has a PDF file doesn't mean, sorry, a PDF extension, it doesn't mean it's suitable for printing. If a raster image is saved as a PDF file, then it will always remain a raster image. Just because it's got a PDF extension does not mean it's suitable for artwork. The PDF file must have been created and saved in a vector drawing program, such as Corel Draw or Illustrator. So, how do you tell if the PDF file you've got is vector or raster? It's really quite easy. You just open the PDF file, double click it on your computer, and it will open up. To magnify that, hold down your control key and press the plus key about 8 times, and you'll see on your screen the image magnifies or zooms in. If it's crisp and sharp, like that semicircle on the screen now, then it's a vector file. If, however, it's jagged and blurry, like your screen now, it's probably a raster file and no good. So, Carol and I, who's been busy clicking my screen for me, would like to thank you for listening in. We hope in our humble way we've been able to unpack some of the mysteries of artwork. EziTag and all of the app decorators and suppliers are very keen for you to provide us with the highest quality artwork you can, so that we can provide you with the best decoration we can do. EziTag is more than willing at any time to answer any question on artwork. Just email us. Doesn't matter to sales at EziTag. It will be forwarded to me and I'll respond. More than happy to answer any of your questions. And of course, we're very happy to sell you our range of promotional products. Our new catalogue is coming out soon, I believe. So, over to you, Kate.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Mark and Carol. That was great. That was very, very well explained. There don't seem to be any other questions at the moment, so if you do have any other questions, please don't hesitate to contact Mark or Carol or myself, and I can forward them on. Their details are on the screen. Tomorrow you'll receive a copy to the recording along with a link to the slides if you want to download those as well. On behalf of Mark, Carol and Appa, thank you for joining us today and have a great afternoon.